Alongside Cantarella's banner, we also have Camellya's rerun, and not only is she one of the best DPS characters in the game, her kit is very easy to use. So if you've been looking for an updated Camellya build guide, I got you. Not much has changed since I made my original video back in 1.4, but there are a couple of things that got added in that do benefit her, and I want to help out any new players that are just getting into the game. So let's not waste any time and dive right into it. If you are debating on pulling for her, her strengths do include having some of the best on-field and consistent damage, plus her burst is very strong. Number 2, with how her kit works, it's very easy for her to buff her own damage. Number 3, she's currently the premier Havoc DPS character. Yes, Havoc Rover can work just fine, but the amount of damage that she can do is absolutely ridiculous. For Camellya's combat roles, she falls under a main damage dealer with having higher Concerto efficiency and deals higher basic attack damage. And here are all the materials you're going to need to get her up to max level. For the Whisper and Core materials, you're going to have to fight the humanoid type echoes, mainly in the 1.0 area, and there's a lot of them that you can farm. For the flower, we're looking for Nova, which can be bought at the money shop in the Black Shores, or can be found using collection spots, and again, these are mainly going to be in the Black Shores area. The Overlord boss material we're looking for is the topological confinement from the Fallacy of No Return, which is the boss in the Tethys Deep part of the Black Shores. For what skills to prioritize upgrading first on Camellya, definitely her Forte Circuit. Her normal attack and resonance skill are tied. Next, your Resonance Liberation, and then lastly, your intro skill. And here are all the materials you're going to need to upgrade all of these skills. For the Metallic Drip material, you're going to have to do forgery challenges, specifically the one in the 1.0 area, Flaming Remnants, because it will also drop the Whisper and Cores you're going to need. And for your Calamity boss material, you're going to have to fight Dreamless in the top part of the 1.0 map for the Dreamless Feather. To maximize Camellya's damage, we need to understand how her kit works, and it's honestly pretty simple. Taking a look at Camellya's Forte bar, she can hold up to 100 Crimson Pistols, and you get it by either casting your intro skill or activating your Forte Circuit attack, Ephemeral, which is the nuke skill, but there's something else with that we want to focus on. Mainly, if you don't have this Forte bar full, the easiest way is to use your sub DPS character, use their outro skill into Camellya's intro skill. That's the fastest way. Where a majority of characters need to deal damage to build up their Forte, Camellya's is different. Every time she hits a target with any of her normal attacks, that includes a variety of her basic attacks, dodge counters, and her resonance skills, it will consume these Crimson Pistols. Her basic attack can perform up to 5 consecutive attacks, but if you just hold down your basic attack button, you'll perform heavy attack pruning, which does consume a little stamina, but it allows you to spin in the air longer. Plus, with her first inherent skill, Seedbed, you gain a 15% Havoc damage bonus, and the damage dealt by heavy attack pruning is now considered basic attack damage. In some of the clips, you'll notice that sometimes Camellya's hair is white and then sometimes it's red. This is where the resonance skill comes into play. In the simplest terms, this is how you switch between those two modes. In her white-haired form, she has her own set of attacks, but when you press the resonance skill, not only does it deal Havoc damage considered basic attack damage, but that's how you enter Blossom mode, which is her red-haired form. Now, I know there's a lot of flavor text here, but the main thing to note is that all of her attacks are now considered basic attack Vining Waltz, which does deal basic attack damage. The only main difference is that her attacks can hit a wider area. You have a basic attack 4 and the heavy attack, and the same thing, if you hold down your basic attack button, the heavy attack just spins for longer. Also note that using these attacks in midair is extremely easy, but it does consume stamina, so keep that in mind. After a few seconds, her resonance skill will cool down, and if you use it again, that's called Floral Ravage. You'll deal basic attack damage, and you'll exit Blossom mode. You can also exit Blossom mode just by pressing your jump button, which has its own basic attack. Essentially, if you want better single target damage, use her normal or white-haired form, and if you want to hit a bunch of targets, use her Blossom mode or red-haired form. Plus, with her second inherent skill, Epiphyte, you gain a 15% basic damage bonus, and you gain increased resistance to interruption when you use any of her basic attacks, which is pretty much the main attacks you're going to be using. Now, coming back to the Forte, remember, hitting a target with any of these attacks will consume those Crimson Pistols. The energy regen multiplier of this attack is increased by 150%, consuming 10 Crimson Pistols, recovers 4 Concerto energy, and obtains 1 Crimson Bud. Each bud lasts for 15 seconds, and it can stack up to 10 times. So you'll notice above her Forte bar, the more Crimson Pistols you consume, the higher that the Crimson Bud's counter goes. This leads into her Forte Circuit attack, Ephemeral. Again, this is where the burst damage is going to come into play. When Concerto energy is fully recovered and Ephemeral is not on cooldown, your resonance skill is replaced with Ephemeral. If you take a look at the icon, it has changed and now it's glowing. When you cast the Ephemeral skill, it consumes 70 Concerto energy and deals Havoc damage considered basic attack damage, and Camellya enters budding mode. You'll know you're in budding mode when your Forte bar changes from the regular Havoc color to this red color with a flower on the left, and you get full Crimson Pistols. When budding mode is active, you get a bonus called Sweet Dream, which increases the damage multiplier of all your normal attacks and your resonance skills by 50%. And when casting Ephemeral, it consumes all your Crimson Buds, and each bud consumed additionally increases the damage multiplier of Sweet Dream by 5% up to 50%. So not only do you get a 50% bonus, you can also gain another 50 if you have 10 Crimson Buds before you cast Ephemeral. When you have budding mode, Camellya can't gain any more Crimson Buds. You're already getting a massive damage multiplier, so them allowing you to do it back to back would be kind of crazy. Also, any of your normal and resonance skill attacks, the energy regen multiplier goes to 0, so you can't regen your resonance liberation, for example, and budding mode ends when Camellya is switched off field or when all the Crimson Pistols are consumed. And since I mentioned her resonance liberation, yes, it will deal some decent havoc damage, but the main reason I like to use it is because it fills up my Concerto bar faster. So for example, if I've consumed all my Crimson Pistols, I have my 10 Crimson Buds and the timer's running out and I don't have full Concerto to perform Ephemeral, I'll use my Resonance Liberation to make up for that last bit. For her Ultra skill, you'll attack the target dealing havoc damage equal to 329.24% of Camellya's attack. After activating your Ephemeral, the next Ultra skill deals an additional 459.02% of Camellya's attack. And for her left and right column stat bonuses, we get a crit damage percentage bump and an attack percentage bump. I'll cover this a little more in depth when I get to the damage rotation part of the video, but the only thing that you need to know is attack a target, consume your Crimson Pistols, get those Crimson Buds. When your Concerto is full, use the Ephemeral nuke skill, and then keep attacking the target because this is where you get the bonus damage. And once that's full, switch off to your other character. For Camellya's best weapon options, her signature Red Spring is unmatched. You get a base attack and a crit rate percentage bump with this perk Beyond the Cycle. Note this is at rank 1. Not only do you get a 12% attack bonus, but when dealing basic attack damage, the wielder gains 10% basic attack damage bonus for 14 seconds. The effect can be triggered once per second, stacking up to 3 times. Again, that's a 30% basic attack damage bonus. And when the wielder's Concerto efficiency is consumed, again using her Ephemeral skill, you gain another 40% attack damage bonus for 10 seconds. I would highly recommend her signature, but if you decide not to, the standard 5-star Emerald of Genesis is pretty good. You get a flat attack and a crit rate percentage bump with this perk Stormy Resolution. Note this is at rank 1. You get a energy regen increase, and when you cast your resonance skill, it increases your attack by 6%, stacking up to 2 times. And again, if you're going to be switching between her regular and her Blossom mode, you can get this attack bonus pretty easily. If you don't have any 5-star swords, don't worry, there are a couple of 4-star ones you can use. If you play during 1.4, you get the event exclusive sword, the Somme Noir Anchor. You get a flat attack and an attack percentage bump with this perk, Meow. Note this is at rank 5. You gain 1 stack of hits when you deal damage, and you get 1 stack per second with each stack. It gives you a 4% attack increase for 3 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. Again, if you switch off the field, it gets rid of all the stacks, but once you reach 10 stacks, you get a crit rate increase of 12%. The Battle Pass exclusive sword, Looming Gloss, is pretty good as well. You get a flat and an attack percentage bump with this perk, Pale Gale. When you cast your resonance skill, it increases your basic and heavy attack damage bonus by a percentage, stacking up to 1 time. If you're looking for a sword to clear out enemies, Lunar Cutter is a decent option. You get a flat and an attack percentage bump with this perk, Preordained. When you enter the battlefield, you get 6 stacks of Oath, each giving an attack percentage bump, and you lose 1 stack every 2 seconds, but you gain full stacks when you defeat an enemy. The last sword I'll mention is Endless Collapse. Again, you get a flat and an attack percentage bump, and with this perk, Intergalactic Gaze, when you cast your resonance skill, it gives you resonance energy and increases your attack by a percentage, lasting 16 seconds, and note this effect can only be triggered once every 20 seconds. For Camellya's best echo set, we're looking at 5-piece Havoc Eclipse, and there's 2 ways you can set this up. The first way is by having your main 4 cost be the new Nightmare Crownless with either crit rate or crit damage as the main stat. For your 2-3 cost, either 2 Havoc damage or 1 with Havoc damage, 1 with attack percentage, and for your 2-1 cost, attack percentage. The second way would be having 2 4 costs. Again, your main one still being the Nightmare Crownless, and your second one being either the regular Crownless or Dreamless. I would recommend 1 with crit rate and 1 with crit damage. It doesn't matter which is which. And then your 3-1 cost with attack percentage. At 2 pieces, you get a 10% Havoc damage bump, and at 5 pieces, you get a 7.5% Havoc damage bump after you release your basic or heavy attack, and it can stack up to 4 times, which means in total, with the 2 and 5 piece, you can have a 40% Havoc damage bump for 15 seconds. seconds. And the reason you want to use Nightmare Crownless is because as long as you have it equipped in your main slot, you get a 12% Havoc and basic attack damage bonus. You don't even have to use the Echo, but what I will say is that Nightmare Crownless actually has 3 charges and it's pretty much an auto parry attack. For our Echo substats, we're looking for crit rate and crit damage, basic attack damage, attack percentage, some energy regen, and flat attack. For Camellya's best team options, if you're free to play, pairing her up with Sanhua and then either Baizha or Varina as your healer is really good. With Sanhua being a free character you can get in the game that also boosts basic attack damage with her outro, it's perfect for Camellya and works really well if you can get her S6 too. I know she's not a free character, but if you're looking for another 4-star character to use, Dan Jin is decent because she does buff Havoc damage on her outro. If you're looking for the premium team, pairing her up with Rochia and Shorekeeper is going to be your best bet. Again, with Shorekeeper, you get the healing, the crit rate, and the crit damage bonuses, and Rochia buffs Havoc and basic attack damage with her outro skill. Now, she does have a little bit longer on-field time, but Rochia can deal more damage while she's on the field, so I think she's worth it if you want to go for a premium team. If you want to go for the Mono Havoc team, just replace Shorekeeper for Cantarella. Now, note Cantarella's healing is not going to compare to Shorekeeper because she also functions more as a sub DPS than a healer, but the coordinated attacks, her buffing Havoc damage and resonance skill damage, and her nuke skill, it's pretty good too. I mean, even the team of Camellya, Cantarella, and Shorekeeper will work pretty good as well. Now that we've covered how Camellya's kit works, what weapons to use, echoes to look for, and best teams to use her on, let's talk about the damage rotation. Now, the smart thing to do would be to attack a little bit so you consume some of the Forte, get some buds, get some Concerto up, and then switch back to your sub DPS. In my case, it's Sanhua. Use all those attacks, get my outro ready, so when I go into my intro skill for Camellya, she gets the basic attack damage bonus, but if you don't attack beforehand, that's okay. At this point, you need to decide whether you want to use her in her white-haired form or her red-haired form. For me personally, I always switch to her Blossom mode because you can also dodge while you're in midair, which I find extremely useful. After that, I'm really just performing my basic and heavy attacks. Majority of the time, I just hold down the basic attack button and let her spin like crazy so she can consume those Crimson Pistols faster. Once the Forte bar is close to gone and I see that I have 9 or 10 Crimson Buds, I see how far my Concerto is. If my Concerto is not full, I'll continue attacking, but the best way, like I mentioned before, just to get the last bit of Concerto up is just by using her Resonance Liberation. At this point, I'm ready to use the Ephemeral nuke skill. I go ahead and pop it, and now we have budding mode. And again, the more Crimson Buds we have, the bigger the basic attack damage multiplier is. And again, I just keep holding my heavy attack and spinning to win. Again, it's up to you if you want to press your Resonance skill and go back into her white-haired form or stay in the red-haired form. It's really up to you. Her kit is pretty versatile to play around with. Now, once your Forte is gone in budding mode, your Concerto should be full and you can switch back to your other characters. The last thing I want to talk about is Camellya's Resonance Chain, and is it worth getting multiple copies of her? I was lucky to get her S1 when she first came out, somewhere no one traveled. Casting her intro skill increases Camellya's crit damage by 28% for 18 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 25 seconds and immune to interruptions while casting Ephemeral. Her S2, Calling Upon the Silent Rose, the damage multiplier of Ephemeral is increased by 120%. That's a lot of damage. S3, a bud adorned by thorns. The damage multiplier of her Resonance Liberation is increased by 50%, and when in budding mode, her attack is increased by an additional 58%. S4, Root Set Deep in Eternity. Casting her intro skill gives all team members a 25% basic attack damage bonus for 30 seconds. S5, Infinity Held in Your Palm. The damage multiplier of your intro skill is increased by 303%, and your outro skill is increased by 68%. And lastly, her S6, Bloom for You 1,000 Times Over. There's a lot to cover here. The damage multiplier of Forte Circuit Sweet Dream is additionally increased by 150%, and you gain Forte Circuit Perennial. Within 15 seconds after casting Ephemeral, if Concerto energy is full and Perennial is not on cooldown, your Resonance skill is replaced with Perennial. This is essentially another instance of Ephemeral. Casting Perennial consumes 50 Concerto energy and recovers 50 Crimson Pistols, dealing Havoc damage equal to 100% of Ephemeral damage considered basic attack damage. This skill can be cast once every 25 seconds. Camellya enters budding mode after casting Perennial and removes all Crimson Buds. The damage bonus multiplier granted by Sweet Dream is increased to 250%, and she's immune to interruptions when casting Perennial. Overall, I'd say S2 is a good stopping point, and if you want to go all the way to S6, you do get some good benefits. S1 isn't bad, giving a free crit damage increase, and being immune while using the new skill is nice, but you can work around that. S2 is the main one, basically making your new skill even more powerful is just insane. And S6 is just correct. You get so many bonuses after casting Ephemeral. You know, Sweet Dream gets a massive multiplier, which means your budding mode is going to be even better. And you can also cast Perennial, which is pretty much another nuke skill while you're there. So That's disgusting. I would say if you're a player who doesn't have a decent DPS yet, Jinxie, Carlotta, Zhang Liao, even Phoebe, Camellya is one of the best options and one of the better free-to-play options in my opinion. Plus, for new players, her kit is very easy to understand. I know for myself, I'm very lucky that I got her S1 during 1.4, and right now Cantarella is very good too, and she does help buff Camellya, but if you're debating on which one to get, and especially if you're free-to-play, I think Camellya is the smart move. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my Camellya build guide and kit breakdown. Let me know in the comments how your pulls are going. For me, I got Cantarella and her weapon within 60 pulls, which was nice. Technically, it was at 70 pity for each, so I definitely grinded my way there a little bit, and I lost my 50-50, so I couldn't get her S1 this time around. Or are you saving for the second half of this update where we get Shorekeeper's rerun, again, easily the best heal in the game, or are you saving for some of the future characters? In any event, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on any other woo-wah content we have dropping here on the channel. If you didn't know, we live stream here on YouTube and then also over on Twitch. That link will be in the description. At the beginning of a new update, we have Twitch drops available, so if you're trying to get some Astrite and some extra materials, definitely stop on by. Lastly, if you want to flex your pulls, your echo rolls, some gameplay, definitely join my Discord. We have a woo-wah channel specifically for that content, but we also have a variety of other channels in there, including PC Tech, anime, and more. Lastly, if you want to help the channel even more, you can look into becoming a member. Now, if you don't know what a membership is, it's essentially like a Twitch subscription, but it's technically cheaper. You'll get access to emotes, monthly badges, and the big ticket item, all of my long form videos early. So if you'd like more information, all you have to do is press the join button next to subscribe, and then I'll give you a rundown with all the details you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next video.